When you think of harvesting crops, you probably picture people carrying bundles of rice, or people cutting wheat, or badass farm machines, but that's not what I picture. I picture lots and lots of consenting adults. Historically, harvest and planting festivals have been events where people tended to get a bit freaky. There must be something about planting on fertile fields that made people go, you know what else we could cultivate? Or maybe whenever a bunch of people get together, they just can't help but boink each other. Whatever the reason, it happened a lot among commoners for most of Japanese history. It was called Utagaki, or Kagai, and it probably started in ancient times in the Kofun period. The word Utagaki could have come from uta o kakeru, which means song gathering. They were usually events held in spring to pray for a good planting season, or in the fall to give gratitude for a good harvest, a fun Thanksgiving with extra stuffing. These celebrations were very religious and were held at sacred and mysterious places, like at shrines, on mountaintops, and in the forest, but also at beaches, riverbanks, and crossroads. Why these places? Because they're border zones, places at the border between two things. A beach is between land and sea, a crossroad lies between one destination and another. In-between places were always seen as magical spots. They were places where two worlds touched, and where spirits liked to hang out. They were neither here nor there, locations where the usual rules didn't apply, places perfect for superstitions and rituals. Another popular Utagaki location was the marketplace. Yeah, I know, it's weird to think of markets as sacred and extraordinary places, but they were. Just go to an Asian supermarket and look at the prices and tell me you ain't standing on sacred grounds. In ancient times, villages didn't have enough people to keep a town hall from turning into a family meeting, let alone keep a market open every day. There just weren't enough people buying and selling, so markets only popped up once in a while. Depending on where you lived, the nearest market could have been far away and only opened once or twice a year. Going to the market wasn't a routine thing, it was a big event that you prepared for and looked forward to. Is the shovel going to be at the market this year? Oh boy! Markets also had sacred meaning. First, many markets started out near shrines, because as people gathered for religious festivals, stalls popped up to sell them things. Second, a market was a border place where strangers from different villages met. It was a place for hoes and hoes. Over time, as the population grew and markets were able to open more often, they became like Disneyland, because after going back a couple of times, the magic fizzled out. They became too ordinary, and the festival crowd packed up their incense and wooden ritual toys to go find more interesting places. Okay, so what exactly went down at an Utagaki event? Well, since it was so widespread, practices varied a lot, but it usually started out with a big party. There was much food and much more drink. Some places had a whole parade before the feast. People faced off in song battles or poetry battles to determine who they would sleep with at the end of the night. There were two main types of contests. One was between a man and a woman, another between two men competing for a woman. Supposedly, the lady could refuse if she wished. It wasn't just for fun, although it was pretty fun. The whole ritual was based on the belief that words had supernatural powers. Now, if you think the idea of words having power is pretty silly, go ahead and post a video of yourself repeating the N-word over and over again, and you'll find that you will magically conjure up a lucrative GoFundMe. Unless you're black, then you'd conjure up a musical career. As people paired off to sing back and forth against each other, one person's word strength would conquer the other. The one with the sharper tongue got to use it on the loser. These songs were usually packed with adult themes and innuendos. There was one thing they sang a lot about: learning your partner's name. This was another superstitious thing. Names were sacred. Remember, words had power. People kept their names hidden from strangers. If a couple wanted to marry, the man first told her his name, then the woman would reveal her own. Introducing yourself was basically consenting to a relationship. They said if a man knew a woman's name, he'd gain the right to be her husband. So a woman really had to keep her name secret. Usually, it was known only to her parents, or maybe even only to her mother. Not sure what her father would call her in that case, though. Now, I just need one last thing to enroll your daughter in our school hut, sir. What is her name? I'm not really... Sorry, my wife usually handles these things. You don't know your daughter's name? What? No, she's my daughter, you disgusting sicko! Sex was sacred. The sex during Utagaki was an offering to the local gods. Since it was condoned by the gods, it allowed people to do things they didn't normally do. After the singing and dancing and determining whose song overpowered who, people paired off and either found a private spot in the woods to give those freaky-ass gods an exciting show, or they stayed at the party and engaged in an interesting practice anthropologists call an orgy. Couples could pass their partners around like trading cards and have multiple partners. It all seemed quite free. The ritual was supposed to increase the fertility of women and fully charge men's seed. The gods would bless the village with a fertile harvest. If you can use the adjective fertile to describe it, it probably got better. Even outside of Utagaki rituals, people associated sex with life-giving powers. It was rumored that some silk farmers liked to get frisky next to their silkworms. Some claimed that couples had vigorous bedroom collaboration during planting season. Now, Utagaki wasn't just for pervs seeking a good time, it also served an important purpose: marriage. Living in the countryside, you really wanted to get married at these events. In ancient times, most people lived in tiny hamlets and villages where their romantic opportunities were often limited to Kenzo down the street who bathed once a month, or Uncle Babu in the next room. A typical rural family tree was more like a trunk. Utagaki festivals allowed you to meet people outside your small community. There was probably pressure to get married at these events. People commonly said if a girl did not receive a gift of love at an Utagaki, she was no longer marriageable. The gift of love was likely some marriage token, we're not sure. There's evidence that couples made marriage vows during Utagaki. If a woman got pregnant from the nightly festivities, the man was expected to care for her and the child. A man couldn't just leave a sacred child conceived in the presence of the gods. You could look at these events as sacred marriage rituals. One poem tells of a guy utterly crushed that he agreed to meet his girlfriend at the Utagaki, but she didn't show up. His grief is our luck, though, because it tells us that couples who had already decided to marry used the festival as the place to get married and have your marriage blessed by the gods. Group weddings were common. These events were mostly for young, single folks, but one poem implies that even married people could get in on them. A traveling nobleman stumbled upon an Utagaki festival and left us a cute little poem. Gathered our maidens and young men to trade songs at the Kagai. That's another word for Utagaki, remember? With another man's wife I lay, and my own wife other men courted. This mountain, since the time of the god Uchiwake, has never forbidden such acts. So just for today, do not glare with angry eyes, do not speak words of blame. If married people were allowed, then it might have been a pass for married people to have fun for a night. It was a sacred ritual, so the normal rules didn't apply. If a married woman came away pregnant, the child was blessed by the gods, ritually legitimate, and, most importantly, the responsibility of her and her family, most likely. Mount Tsukuba in Ibaraki Prefecture was a popular festival spot, basically the promised land of Utagaki, drawing fun-loving people from all over eastern Japan, and people actually used the way it looked to justify it. The mountain has two peaks. The taller, steeper one was supposed to be a male god, the smaller one was a female god. Every spring and autumn, people gathered there for what might have been a ritual marriage between two gods, and it blessed the marriages or sexual activity of the festival goers. Utagaki songs could be really sweet. In this one, the man sings, "Like the waters which cascade and never cease to fall from the rocks of Mount Tsukuba, never will I think that our love is coming to an end." The woman responds, "Though my mother guards me like the mountain guards who watch over Mount Tsukuba, our two souls have found each other." It was said that the more powerful your songs were, the stronger your relationship became. Now, it was mostly a commoner tradition, but sometimes nobles participated too. If sex was involved, Heian nobles were not far behind. A few Utagaki festivals with more than 200 nobles have been recorded, taking place in the imperial palace or before the emperor himself. Once the emperor gave gifts to the partygoers. Another time, two noblemen battled lyrically for the privilege of marrying a woman. You know, things must have gotten wild at these celebrations because in 798, Emperor Kanmu banned night festivals, saying, "During Shinto festivals held at night, men and women become inebriated and commit licentious acts harmful to public morals. Henceforth, Shinto festivals shall be performed during the daytime and not at night. The ban worked about as well as telling people to quit watching porn. Sex is a powerful force and nothing can stop it, except social anxiety. People just found a clever way around the ban. They only did the festival during the day, no licentious acts, everything G-rated, and ended the party right before sunset. But then they held a non-festival after party where all the freaky stuff happened. Over time, the religious and spiritual side of these celebrations became less important, and people mostly came to find a husband or wife, or they mostly just came. Utagaki jamborees survived for a long time. Some of them ended only recently. If you've learned one thing from these celebrations, it's that people will find any opportunity to sleep with each other. As late as the 1920s in the Izu Islands during the Obon festival, men and women banged each other in public, like on the beach, on the street corner, outside people's front doors. If you're near a flat surface, prepare to get nervous. There was the Yami Matsuri in Fuchu, where people paraded a phallic shrine around town, cut the electricity to the city, and enjoyed themselves at a local shrine until dawn. This festival was only banned in 1953. Even now, there are plenty of festivals around Japan with song and dance battles. The tradition lives on, minus the sex. Countryside practices can be pretty wild. There was even a popular custom where women left their doors open at night so that random young men could creep into their futons. Click here to see how that worked and why people thought it was awesome. We have some new members on Patreon and YouTube today. Yep, I'm gonna be calling out new YouTube members too from now on. Chemical Games, John Lawson, Artemis and the Moon, ooh, and Ghost Lunar. Oh, 2 lunar names today. Thanks so much, you guys. Alright, I love you and spread the knowledge.